Hiya folks, how's it going? My name is Lexi and I really love tabletop games. So much so that we sit down together once a week, every week, and review one here at the gaming table. If that sounds interesting to you, I encourage you to press subscribe and keep watching today's video. If you would like to go the extra mile for the gaming table, there is a link in my description box to my Ko-Fi page where you can donate to the channel. All of the donations go straight back into the running costs of the channel, such as getting games printed when people send them to me. So all those donations are greatly appreciated. Today we are taking a look at a game that I picked up after looking at it and wanting it for a long time. It uses the age system, which I haven't touched on before, I think. Today we are taking a look at Blue Rose, the age role-playing game of romantic fantasy by Green Ronin Publishing. This is a dense manual and a good portion of it is dedicated to the setting. It's set in a somewhat medieval European fantasy realm. Once upon a time it was ruled by dark sorcerers, and their mark can still be felt on the land today. These days, the land is ruled by an unconventional but beloved queen. The people of this land, Aldea, are very diverse. The word humans in this manual refers to any intelligent speaking entity. Not only are there humans, there's also the Vata, who are made of magic, sea people, night creatures who were once creations of those dark sorcerers, and Rydens, which refers to intelligent talking animals. One of the authors that this manual cites as an inspiration is Tamora Pierce. I actually really used to love reading Tamora Pierce's novels in my early teens, and they're not that well known in Australia, so I was really excited to see a game that was inspired in part by them. The other big inspiration that the game manual cites is the Narnia series, and that is a very clear inspiration. The Blue Rose Kingdom is genuinely a place of egalitarian values. That doesn't mean that no one ever does the wrong thing and there isn't evil to be dealt with. What it means that many people here are genuinely trying to do the right thing by others. Part of how this land maintains its culture of doing good and altruism is through a mystical entity called the Sacred Heart. The Sacred Heart is a magical deer that appears when the kingdom needs a new ruler. It bestows on them a sacred mark. Normally, the heart appears when a ruler has passed away, but the Sacred Heart has appeared in times to depose rulers it initially anointed. Magical deer distributing marks of a sacred divine right is not a solid basis for a form of government in my experience, but it seems to be working out in Blue Rose. Generally, the people in Aldea value things like community, love, and social interaction. A game of Blue Rose Fantasy is absolutely going to touch on the idea of relationships and social interaction. It does mean more than just romantic love. The manual includes all sorts of mechanics for relationships, not just romantic ones, though the Aldeans tend to love matchmaking and setting people up in relationships and dates. Blue Rose Fantasy uses the age system. In the age system, you roll 3d6, then apply any relevant modifiers to then try meet a challenge rating set out by the Game Master. The harder something is to achieve, the higher the number it is that you are going to be trying to beat. The modifiers that you apply to your dice results generally come from things like your character's attributes, but you also could call on things like a specialization or a conviction point to change the outcome of your roll. One of the really special parts of this game are the stunts. If you manage to roll double numbers on your dice roll, this would give you the opportunity to potentially use a stunt. A stunt is kind of a flourish you can apply to what you're doing. It doesn't mean you will automatically do what you set out to do. That still depends on the result on the dice. but it allows you to apply a flourish to what you do. These stunts are what give this game a romantic, swashbuckling feel. They provide some suggested stunts in the manual, divided roughly between combat, social interaction, and exploration. I'm sure, however, that a player could discuss with their game master using or making a different stunt dependent on the situation. When making a character in Blue Rose Fantasy, there's only 3 classes to choose from: Adept, Expert, and Warrior. These 3 classes do have a surprising amount of breadth to them, so you can do a fair amount with the 3 options. You can definitely have a game where you've got 2 characters from the same class and they look very different to one another. A step of the character creation process that this manual has that I really loved was setting out your character's destinies and fates. This is a step that uses a tarot deck, divided out in the major arcana and the minor arcana. You can then draw a card to see what your character's destiny would be. A character's destiny is themselves at their most noble, and their fate, inversely, is them at their least noble. For example, you might have a destiny of bravery, but the inverse of that is cowardice. You also can use the minor arcana to discover a bit more about your character's inner being, things like their concrete goals or perhaps their more day-to-day beliefs. I found this step really shaped how I would understand a character during the character creation process. I do think the character creation process is pretty thorough, and in comparison, the gameplay mechanics are really fast to pick up on. It's those 3d6 and then applying relevant modifiers. I would recommend, if you are going to be playing a game of Blue Rose Fantasy, that your group gets together and makes their characters as a group. I think with this game's emphasis on social interaction, you could find out which characters are potentially going to be amazing foils for one another. The gameplay mechanics are pretty straightforward to me. It's those 3d6 and applying a modifier. This is a pretty thick game manual, and I have to say it was a real treat to flip through. You get so much detail about the setting and a lot of gorgeous art to look at. I will say the amount of detail about the setting could be intimidating to newcomers. I found for myself that the visuals really helped bring me into the world, so I felt really happy to be reading more about the setting. Perhaps if you are looking to create your own setting, this might be some detail that you could do without. I would perhaps find it strange to run the Blue Rose Fantasy system without the Blue Rose setting. So much of the setting is reflected in the mechanics, and I think they really work well together. If I had to pick, I would say the setting shines a little bit brighter than the system. The system is perfectly solid and absolutely usable. It just so happens that I was really drawn into the world of Aldea. I think how you feel about the Blue Rose setting is going to decide whether or not this game is for you. If you don't mind epic romantic fantasy where people are do-gooders and swashbuckling heroes, then I think you'll have a lot of fun with this game. If perhaps you're of a more cynical mindset and that isn't your thing, then I don't think this game is going to draw you in, even with these solid mechanics. I know there's other age system games out there that have fantasy backdrops, so there might be one there that's a bit more your style. This manual retails for around $50 US. I got it for $90 Australian, which is pretty equivalent with the exchange rate. I think for what you pay, you get a lot of stuff in this manual to play with and enjoy. For myself, I found purchasing a copy was worthwhile because I got to look through all the beautiful art in print. I do think if you're planning to run this game, a physical copy of this manual would be extremely beneficial. There's lots of lore to go through, and I found the book made it easier for me to read through it at my own pace, rather than a digital copy. So that is Blue Rose Fantasy with the age role-playing system. What did you think? Are you the sort of person who enjoys playing in a good aligned setting? Are there other age role-playing games out there that I should check out? I'm kind of curious to find out what I should be reviewing from that system. Let me know your thoughts about the game or the age system in the comments down below. While you're there, I encourage you to like this video and perhaps even share it with a friend who you think might find it interesting. If you would like to keep up with the gaming table, I would encourage you to press subscribe and turn on notifications. That way YouTube will tell you when I've next uploaded. If you would like to go the extra mile for the gaming table, there is a link in my description box to my Ko-Fi page where you can donate to the channel. All the donations go straight back into the running costs of the channel, and I started saying a little thank you at the end of my videos for everyone who's donated in the previous month. I want to thank you all for watching and discussing Blue Rose Fantasy with me. Genuinely interacting with my videos in any way that you can really helps them get noticed on the sea of the algorithm. I hope you're all well, and I look forward to seeing you next time at the gaming table. Bye!